you worked really hard to get to this moment, and it might not feel or look the same as anybody else's moment that's in here right now, but like we're all in this moment and like you worked to get here. And I'm really proud of you for being here. So whether you're pulling back the curtain and it's for you 10 minutes ago or a decade ago or your 4-year-old self, like someone just said, like, I just want to make sure it's easy to, I think, to feel like, well, I'm not there yet. Then I'll look back. It's like, no, you're here now and you fought to get here. Keep freaking fighting because we're better because you're here.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce the Third, he, him pronouns.
And Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
And Liz, why is this episode so very special, like I just said?
We could tell if you're watching this, if you're watching the YouTube or if you're here, my face hurts already because I'm smiling so hard because that's how special it is. Because it's our very first episode that we've done live with the virtual Phoenix community. So we're recording this in real time. We've got folks here attending that are already chit-chatting. We got people here from Dallas, from Phoenix, from where else? Georgia, I think the Carolinas. So all over the place. And we're going to be able to do some engaging. And it's just like maybe the coolest thing I've ever done on this. And I can't even believe you guys are all here. I'm so grateful. So pumped.
Yeah, and with that, if you haven't already, hop over to your Spotify, your Apple podcasts, and give us a like and a rating and a review and a subscribe and all that good stuff, because that helps for us to perpetuate the energy behind the podcast and get it out to more people. If you haven't downloaded the Phoenix app, hop in the Phoenix app, jump in the community group in there, and that's how you can become a part of this community that is here live with us today.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Liz, how's your energy?
My energy, man, you used the word electrified earlier, which I'm just going to totally steal because I feel that way. It's like electric energy. And, you talked about how when we have guests come on, almost everyone always says, that they're feeling nervous before we hit record. I never not feel that way. And I think that's just when you care about something a lot, that's normal. And then I feel that way now. I'm always just a little bit nervous. I want it to be just right. And also it never is not because it's us and just in community. And yeah. How about you?
I'm good. I'm chilling. I think you hit it on the head around the energy behind something that you are best equipped to contribute to. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine if you showed up to create something or contribute to something and you felt nothing, like you were devoid of feeling. Like maybe that's something that you should leave to somebody who gets a little bit nervous about it because they care about it, and I think that desire to contribute that sometimes manifests in what we would consider to be butterflies is a good compass for me to discover what it is that I should be contributing to. And yeah, of course, I think I always feel the butterflies. And what's crazy is the fact that we, the hosts, feel that. I feel like when guests come on, we're able to create an environment like, look, I know how you feel. We feel it too. Don't trip. It's going to be perfect. Even if we flub up, like that's the perfection in it. We want to include that. Like there's no way we can get it wrong and you're inherently complete and whole. And I think that's like the process of even alchemizing those butterflies into the willingness to take action anyway is a part of what I've learned in recovery. Like some things that were counterintuitive at first became intuitive. And that only can happen when we show up and actually do the work regardless of how we feel.
Yeah. You talk about too a lot about that excitement versus like the anxiety excitement, kind of like how they're so similar. And you have this really beautiful ability to kind of reframe and, talk about how important words are. And that's helped me. That's, I'm a person with anxiety, it's a big part of my story, of recovery. And there are times that with so much history of anxiety, there are times that I'll feel, that like kind of sweaty palms, like a little bit of a shakiness in my voice, or shakiness just in my whole entire self. My immediate thought is like, oh boy, here we go. Like feeling anxious, like, doom. And then I can have that thought, more so the further along in recovery I get, that it's like, or maybe this is something I really care about and I'm really excited about. And it's been cool to be able to have those feelings, and even like the physical part of it, and have it feel safe in a way that it didn't before. So cool stuff. Cool recovery stuff.
And I'm interested to hear how you all, if you deal with anxiety at all, like how do you show up for it? Throw it in the chat. Let us know what tools you've been able to cultivate over the time that you've been showing up intentionally in life and showing up for those emotions and showing up for that experience. I'm always like, we talked about it before, where it's like hardware versus software, where it's like, okay, if I'm hardware, if my mind, if my spirit is in a hardware state, eventually I'm gonna be obsolete and I'm gonna have to be like, I'm gonna be out of date, right? But if I'm a software program, I continue to allow for the downloads. I'm not stuck in what it is that I know, and I'm able to have the humility to like continuously learn. And that's one of those things that have been substantial in my recovery and have propped me up to be able to become somebody different over and over again.
Yeah, man, so true. There's so many things. I mean, life in general. I mean, recovery and life, I feel like there's times that I can just use them almost interchangeably, but that ability to change the way you're doing things and not being like, this is how we've always done it, so this is just how we're going to always do it, or doing something because we've always done it that way. I mean, this podcast is a really great example. It took us over the past year, we've created a lot of like systems and ways of doing things, and you get comfortable in that. And there's a lot of, I really like comfort. Like I really like, some semblance of sameness. We've had this conversation over and over again behind the scenes, Bryce and I, where I'm like, I think it really helps to keep things pretty similar so that, with recovery, there's that feeling of like, I know what to expect. And then Bryce, who is forever the let's shake it up a little bit, is a big reason why we do shake it up, why sometimes you do hear like a snack-sized episode, or we, decide to go live and have everyone here. So we're shaking it up. Thanks for shaking it with us.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things, like for me, financial recovery has been big in my becoming someone new. And in that, like I used to scoff at like get rich slowly. Like, get out of my face. We're going to hit a lick. We going up. The stock is rising overnight and we going crazy. And right now where I'm at in my life, like it's just, the colors are intermingling. Like black and white doesn't really serve me. So it's like both, like both. Like, oh, I can take my time. I can set up processes that allow for me, yes, to have the stability of contributing to something continuously, so that I know running in the background is that security or is that sameness. And I can continue to put myself in environments that align with who it is that I see myself as being, so that there's a higher potential for me to hit a lick or for things to go up even crazier, because I'm contributing in a way that I'm irreplaceable and that, I know I can contribute to it that nobody else can. So the same thing here, where it's like, yeah, we need systems, we need things that we can fall back and depend on, that we know when we cut this show on, like that level of support is going to be there, as well as like, yeah, let's go crazy and let's go to a music festival and let's do some on-site, recording. Let's get Steven Tyler on here from Aerosmith. Let's, and yeah, you see, big swings, baby. I'm looking at the chat, talking about I asked the audience how they've dealt with their anxiety, and Amber says, recovery has taught me how to take a breath when anxiety hits. That, like, breathing is, what's crazy right now, everybody in the chat and everybody listening to this podcast episode, take a breath. Whoa. I can forget to breathe. Yeah. It happens often. And I'm learning, and me and Liz were talking off camera, where like I can get in these zones, especially when I want to create something or I want to manifest something, that I am so focused. You could talk to me, I'm going to sound like a zombie. I'm not even going to be here with you. You can be saying words and my brain can feel like they're processing them, but then you ask me, what did I say? I'm like, yeah. Taking a breath like brings me back here, you know, and a lot of anxiety is worry, concern, frustration, based off of a predicted future result. Or like, I think that this thing is going to happen. That's not happening right now. And so let me prepare for it in all the type of ways that I could never know how to prepare for something that's not here. And then I just, like, my energy doesn't know what to do with itself. And that breathing allows for me to come back here. And it's like, oh, what's here? Oh, actually, like, I'm cool. You know, I'm smooth. Like, the sun is shining, or it's not. And I can just go outside, or, you know, I can put my feet in the grass, or, you know, I can use these tools that I've learned and to use to ground me in this moment. And breath always brings me back. That's a good one, Amber.
It is. I feel like there's so much I'm seeing in here. I want to read some of these in their full, beautiful eloquence. But just what you're saying and everything I'm seeing in our chat from everybody that's here is that exact thing, like that grounding, that coming back into the moment. I don't know if anyone else here has had like panic attacks and been in that really like very elevated anxiety space. And if somebody tells you to just like take a deep breath, wanted to just, I don't know, explode into a million pieces. But this is my trick. That again, sometimes helps, sometimes doesn't. And I also know that sometimes someone giving advice when you're in that state can be really unhelpful. But in the future, I have had a ice, like I always have ice in my freezer, and like ice in water, and like sticking my hands in that in the middle of feeling really anxious. Sometimes even often before it gets to that level, now I'm able to kind of like feel it coming. That's helped. When I've been really in a state, I put my whole face in that bucket of ice. And it has been it's like when getting feet on the ground isn't going to do it, when taking a deep breath isn't going to do it, big bowl of ice with your face in it. Let me tell you, brings you back to that moment. And that's exactly what it is. That anxiety, it's being in the past, being in the future, anywhere but right here. And yeah. So anyways, wanted to throw that out there. Deep breath or bucket of ice.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I was helping somebody, a friend of mine, through a pretty intense panic attack probably a year or so ago. And I was just Googling. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what to do. And it was like, give them ice to hold.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good too. If you don't have a whole situation with a big bowl. Cool. Yeah. Tomorrow has had that exact same experience. That is cool. What else we got in here? Bryce, you want to pick one out to read?
Yeah. So we got Steven, who says, recovery has taught me the importance of meditation and running, which is also very meditative in meeting anxiety with acceptance and serenity. Yeah. And that acceptance part is huge for me. I think a big part of my experience with anxiety will be like, oh, I'm having this experience, but then oh no, I can't have this experience right now. And that the opposite of acceptance starts to like kick into gear. Mm-hmm. And then having that feeling of I can't be having this feeling like ramps up the feeling even more. And then how you talked about, Liz, where it's like, you know, anybody who tells you what to do in these moments, like that could be like, don't even.
Yeah. Too much happening already. Don't need any more in this brain.
The side effect from that is I don't want to even tell anybody what I'm going through. Yeah. And so now I'm going through this experience and I'm pushing it away, but it's here and I can't tell anybody about it. And so, and on running too, but let me not get sidetracked. The practices that lead me to allow for what is in this moment and to be here. I was watching this movie. It's called it's by M. Night Shyamalan, and you might like it. I don't know. I liked it. Some people I talked to, they would, but it was a cool concept. But like the kids in that movie, when they were having these anxiety spells, they would start looking around and see things like, oh, black wall foam, oh, colorful computer mouse, oh, white paper with pen, like, and just noticing the things that were around them to bring them in this moment, and like really focusing on the things that are here, which I think could lead to a level of acceptance that we can't have if like we're in our head and in our, like in another time other than right now.
Yeah.
But real quick on running too though, like, and this is coming from Bryce. If y'all listen to the podcast, y'all know that Bryce, historically doesn't like to like work out for working out's sake. Like I like to have fun and then have the workout be like the second hand. Like, oh, I actually got a workout in. But
I'm sorry, I just have to say this. I feel like any episode we've had several CrossFitters on, we had several runners on, and then, all like everything in between and plenty of non-physical episodes. But I feel like I want to go back because every single one, I feel like there's probably a point where Bryce is like, how do you like want to do that? Like, how do you enjoy, like, I want to, and now you are. So anyways, continue.
But so the whole thing is like, I could try to deny it all I want, but in the days where I have physical activity, like grueling, like I don't want to be doing this right now, physical activity, like I'm more focused. And as somebody who's dealt with ADHD and does a lot of like thought work, focus is pertinent, important, and I just can't deny it anymore. Like I hate it when I do it, which is crazy though, because like now, I mean, I say that, but that might be a part. Somebody in the chat, Ivory Keys says, Bryce's hardware software analogy reminds me of the fixed versus growth mindset. I work hard each day to adopt the growth mindset. And part of my growth mindset is when I notice myself saying like, I this or I that, like I hated it or I hate it when I do it. And it's like, well, is that what I desire? If that's not what I desire, then maybe I can tell another story. I'm a storyteller by trade, and I've learned that the most important story that we'll ever tell ourselves is the story of ourselves. And the way that we frame things up and the way that we see life and the way that we tell our story kind of contributes to the experience that we have. Not kind of, it actually does. And I've felt it. Like I felt resentment brewing and then told myself a different story in that moment. And I felt like peace and ease. I'm the same person in the same circumstances with the same variables, but the story that I told allowed for me to grow versus being stunning. So the story I'm telling myself now is, yes, I like to get up and get a sweat in, because I actually do. I mean, it's tough, it's grueling, but I notice like in my toughest times, like when I'm like, ooh, I'm ready to give up, like I think of it like brushing the teeth of my heart. You know how like you get up and brush your teeth every day? And it's like, okay, you got to, like you're here for heart health. So like you got to brush your heart too. Like, and this is how you do that. And this is how like you put coins in that bucket of having a healthy heart. And it's like, okay, cool, I'll do this. And it's kind of fun sometimes. It's cool to see that I did a little bit better than I did last time. And throughout the day, like it helps to ease anxiety. It helps to increase being focused. And it helps me to have like empathy. My vagus nerve is stimulated, and it's a lot of benefits from it. So that's non-working out Bryce praising the advantages of working out. And so that's amazing.
Yeah, I've just got a real visual with brushing the teeth of your heart that I think that's maybe eventually when we have t-shirts, that could be one of them, and we can get our graphic designer to create something really cool with brushing the teeth of your heart. So much of what we've got going on in this chat right now that I just love that everyone's sharing with us and with everyone, all these ways to navigate, anxiety. And when we first kind of hopped on here, we didn't really want to have a kind of hard and fast topic because we wanted to allow the conversation to flow and see how everyone was feeling community-wise. But it feels like we were thinking about self-care as a topic. And I feel like we've just gone into there super organically. Bryce and I are both people who are in recovery. If you happen to not have heard the podcast before, our stories in there full are on the pod. But the cool thing about, being in this community and hearing about other people's recovery and all different pathways of recovery and types is that it gives you kind of, for me anyways, this permission slip to allow that self-care within recovery to continue to unfold, continue to evolve as time goes on. I would imagine you probably weren't brushing your heart's teeth when you first started on the recovery journey, or did you? Were you a heart?
No, I was actually like putting plaque on my heart. When I first started, I was smoking cigarettes. I was.
That's a real thing, actually. That metaphor really became like an actual
You
thing.
see.
Full circle.
No, and I think compassion. Here we go. Compassion for ourselves is a huge part of the process, because if we look back in hindsight, like all of the things that I hold myself to now, like I didn't hold myself to that before. The more I became knowledgeable, the more I had to maintain. And so in moments where like this slips or that slips, or I'm not exactly where I want to be, like hindsight and perspective and a lot of us, when we begin to pursue a new life, whether it be a life in recovery, a life of curiosity within sobriety, or a life of just like switching habits, we don't necessarily have that luxury of hindsight to pull upon. And that's where we borrow the community. We look at other people that have done some of the things that we're seeking to do, have lived some of the lives that with the variables that we're looking to live. And we look at those examples and see what they've learned. Mm-hmm. But for me, somebody in long-term sobriety, I have the luxury of hindsight, and I could look back and I remember like I used to go to the gym and box and get out of that gym and then light a cigarette up, or like I used to I used to not even know where my money was going at all, period. I used to just like, well, money in, money out, I used to eat Burger King. no knock the Burger King.
Don't you knock the Burger King.
I can't do it now. And like, it just doesn't work for my body. I used to be able to like eat ice cream and stuff like that without like worrying about the couple of hours after eating ice cream, So it's just, we hold ourselves to these different standards. And then what ends up happening is we become, new versions of ourselves. And so just like a flower where we can't force it to open, like you wouldn't put a sledgehammer to a rose and say bud, like you would allow for it to bloom in its natural order. And so having compassion for ourselves is to be here with ourselves now and to allow for that natural progression, allow for that natural blooming, allow for you to become who it is that you desire to become in natural fashion. And also, beautiful thing about it is we are an active participant in the experience. And so it's something that we're a part of, and that we can deploy compassion to allow ourselves to allow for the process of. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Yeah. Well, yeah. And, I like the flower analogy. We're big metaphor people around here because there's seasons, there's the flowers that I forgot what they're called, but the ones that there's like a bulb and they grow and then they go away when it's winter and then they come back. The seasonal ones, somebody will know. No, there's like a certain like type of flower. It's like a seasonal flower. Like you don't have to replant it every year. Somebody's going to put it in the chat. Somebody with a much smarter mind.
Like seasonals or something.
Perennials. There we go. Oh, and annuals too. Yeah, perennials. See, we have such brilliant people in here. And the people that are listening at home who weren't here for the live one, probably for that couple of minutes, were like yelling it in their car, like perennials, you dummy. I do that sometimes in podcasts. Because, there are times that it's like ebbs and flows. I feel the same. There's definitely seasons where I can be like, wow, like look at this thing that I figured out that I sure didn't a while back. But then there's also seasons like I'm in right now, where there's a lot of like change happening in my life, both like personally, professionally, relationship wise, like all these things. I'm moving. I'm just to not make that quite as
uprooting.
Literally uprooting. Yeah. Taking my perennials with me though. Pull those bulbs out and replant them up north. I am finding that it is taking a lot of kind of not even just remembering the self-care, but being okay with it not being perfect. I am fortunate to work with a wonderful therapist who I appreciate very much. And he asked me the other day about like what my self-care was, and being the metaphor, I don't know, enjoyer that I am. I was like, well, if self-care is like, a boat, like I'm in the water, but I'm holding on to something that's floating. So like my head is above water and, and like the land is still in sight. There's other times that maybe I'm in a little bit of a kayak or a bigger boat. And sometimes you're on a freaking yacht, and that's wonderful. But that like self-care that's kind of keeping me afloat, that the compassion for me is knowing that there are times that I'm going to do a great job. There's times that it's going to be more challenging, that I'm going to need that we're going to need a bigger boat. And right now it's like keeping my head above water is something I'm really proud of, and I can look back and be like, wow, a few months ago, I was taking breaths more consistently. I was, better about getting a good night's sleep. I was holding on to like boundaries around like what I couldn't take on. And right now I am just having to like end the day and be like, I got through that day. And how can I like get myself to sleep, even if it's fully clothed? And even that is a success. So I think that the seasons of it is an act of Herculean compassion in my world anyways. And big part of it, to be able to say that out loud is really a gift. So.
Well, that's beautiful. And I think we're doing some in real time healing on this show today. I think the beautiful thing is you can, because it can seem like regression, especially when you look at like, well, in this previous season, like I was getting to bed like on time and I was doing this and I was a little bit better at boundaries. And so like comparison to a previous season could seem like, okay, like I've been demoted this season, but in all actuality, like it's not linear at all. And to compare this season to last season isn't one-to-one. There's new responsibilities, there's new desires, you're a new person. And in that, like, we're all susceptible to the non-linear process of growth, but the beautiful thing is, like, it's growth. Like, it may seem like you going in circles, but you actually are spiraling upward. And being an active participant in this process allows for us to cultivate wisdom. And the wisdom that we cultivate is like, oh, I remember every experience that I've had. Like every experience that I've had has become a part of me now. Just like in community, I like to say I'm an amalgamation of all of the people that believe in me. I'm an amalgamation of all the people that I've come across and that I've had the luxury of hearing and holding their stories. And so, like, there's so much more to who it is right now that I am than it used to be. Because how it used to be, it's like every day was sanctioned off from each other because I don't know what I did yesterday, but that ain't today. And today we're just trying to just get through it and avoid and don't talk to me. I'm a numb up, like but now I like really mean something. It's substantial. So, and I think that's if we learn how to like show up in life, like. A big piece for me is like hope, having hope, having faith. And so like a big contribution to that hope and faith is those previous experiences that allow for me to cultivate wisdom. Cause it's like, I done been through crazier. Like I done came through hell. Like I done fought through the craziest. Like I've literally like fought in the street with like, it was to me and my mom versus like 5 people in the street, like they came to jump us.
Don't mess with Bryce's mom. Holy smokes.
No, yeah, it was crazy. That's like the story for a different time. But like that's something that I literally had the experience of, So I know like, doing anything now, like I'm winning, I'm ahead.
It's a win. Yeah. So true. And talk about like you mentioned community, like I could just weep with joy at this beautiful community that we have here. And there were very many years that I could never even have said out loud that I'm struggling, that I'm like, that anxiety is something that I, have or talk about. I would certainly not talk about recovery or addiction in the past. And so to be able to say those things out loud is just a gift I will never, ever not be grateful for. And then to make about 100 metaphors within the 35 minutes we've been on here, and to have Sean talking about riding the wave and Ivory saying that the boat analogy rocks because she's funny too, makes me so beyond happy and feel so supported. And that's, that's something that we all have built together. So like where you're at as far as in your seasons of self-care and what wave you're riding right now, like we have each other. And that's, I can't even believe how lucky we are.
Yeah. I got this weird relationship with luck. But I'm just happy that we at where we at, and it's a privilege and an honor to be able to hold these spaces for people to find it, So anytime you all shoot this podcast out to somebody, or anytime you all go out in the world practicing these tools that we're talking about today, you are a representation of like what's possible for anybody. And so, like, being that beacon of hope. And, we speak at the Phoenix a lot about, like, when you wear the Phoenix, like, you're representing, and it's true just in this way of life. Like, you being who you are, like how I said at the beginning of the podcast where I hyped this up, like, you are inherently perfect. You are inherently whole. And you just being that, like, it set so many ripples in waves to keep the water going. Like, you set so many ripples within a community that you are a beacon of light to somebody you probably don't even know you are.
So true. Yeah. I think one of the things I love the most about the podcast is the question that we ask at the end of folks, which is, if you could pull back the curtain of time and send some words to a previous version of yourself, like, what might those words be? That's usually the time that it's like we're trying to blink back the tears, because there's always some really gorgeous thing that folks say. And I just think that's the thing that somebody out there needs to hear, like that is like a ripple, a big freaking ripple. Like, any one of us to look back and be like, what might I say to that version of myself, knowing very well that we can't do that. And also knowing very well that even if we did, that version of ourselves was going to do what they were going to do. And honestly, thank God they did what they were going to do, because here we are. And, I'm so glad we're all here exactly where we are. But the words that you say, they mean something to the person that is in that moment.
And I'd be super interested to see what you all in the chat would say to a previous version of yourself. If you can give if you can give any version of yourself in life some advice, a piece of word or something, what version would you go back and talk to, and what would you tell them? Very interested to see the answers to that question.
If you would prefer that we don't say it out loud on the recording, then feel free to put that in there. But yeah, I think we'll read a lot of them out loud. Sorry, Bryce, go ahead.
No, and then while we wait for those answers to roll in, what would you say, Liz? And what previous version of yourself would you choose?
Holy smokes, I should have known this one was coming. This is like the how's your energy question that I'm always like, man, one of these days I'm gonna have something ready. And then it'll feel different in the moment and I'll change my mind. Let's see. If I could pull back the curtain of time. Well, this is actually very timely to be thinking about this, because I am about to move, like I said, up north, but to my hometown. Last time I lived there, I was still really struggling with all things. And there's a lot of really beautiful memories there. My gosh, my family's there and so many friends that I'm so excited to be near again. But a lot of hard things happen that I'm looking forward to changing up some of the ways I feel in different places of where I'm from. So I think I might go back to that person, maybe last time I lived there. And my God, now I have that feeling that folks who come on the podcast get, where they get a little bit like, okay, I'm going to get a little choked up here.
Ears are welcome.
I know I want to be able to get the words out though. I need a bucket of ice. I think I would just say there will be a time that you look back on this, that there will be a time that you're past this part, that you're able to look back with gratitude and with compassion. There's a version of yourself that will be born from this, who will be proud of you. And so hold on.
Them is words that she'll probably need to hear.
Yeah. She might right now too.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm seeing in the chat, rejection is redirection. That's a don't compare yourself to others. Tomorrow, do your math homework.
I'm picturing Tamar sitting at the whatever dining room table or desk or whatever, being like, tell me to do my math homework.
That illusion of choice. I'd be interested. Explain that one a little bit more in the chat if you could.
Yeah, tell us more.
Erica, your story will give you compassion and empathy to help others going through the same. Jack, I always think about what I would say to this question, probably high school Jack, and gently say, in a world full of choices, choose to be kind. Yeah.
Good one.
Sean says, most recent version of myself or my life prior to relapse, don't do it. I lost everything again. I've done this all before. I've come out this time so much better than before. Glad you're back.
Me too. Proud of you, Sean.
Catherine, always be kind, especially to yourself. Yes.
Catherine always is kind. My gosh, one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Yeah. I think so. I don't know. So I often use this like in real time in life when I'm experiencing things. Well, I've helped walk through people through things, and then I'm weird. So like, if you think about time, and you think about time being a construct, and you think about like time not really being something that is real, weird stuff that I lean into. Like I just think there's a version, like there's literally like a version right now sitting in everything that you're looking to create. Like they're sitting with the people that you want to sit with. They're sitting in the car that you want to drive. They're doing the thing that you know will bring you the most joy. Like it's happening right now. And that allows for me to kind of reverse engineer and build it from here. And often what it does is it motivates me and gets me energized about like creating different things and putting things out into the world. But it also like brings me present and allows for me to like enjoy those pieces that are actually here right now. You know, because there's a previous version of me. So it's like we all the homies, like the future me and the previous version of me and me now, like we all like really tight, like we clicked up like that. And so future me allows for me to reverse engineer to get to him. Past me allows for me to have perspective and know that current me was future me at one point. And so it's all like a part of the process. Leave it to Bryce to take this question and go to the multiverse with it. But it's
all the Bryces.
It's a wonderful practice to contemplate upon because it allows for me to show up today as my best self. And I think if I can go to any version of me right now in this very moment, like it'd be the current me, and I'll just give me a hug for real. Like I think, every now and then, like bro, like you, like man, you got a lot. You're doing a lot. You push a lot through. You're doing a lot. And I see you. You're doing great.
I second that to this version of Bryce. To all the version of Bryce, but this version of Bryce, who I know and love so very much, I would say that. So proud of you. You do a lot, and it's amazing. It's perfect.
Thank you.
The world is better because you're in it.
Oh, you said tears were... Who said tears? I'm not going to cry. So
I know. You can say when you're on the good side of it. We got to read. We got to read some more of these.
Do anything and everything to love your complete self because every decision and action in my life will be predicated on this. Chad did go in to illustrate a little bit more about the illusion of choice. So the illusion of choice is there is no choice. You have a bad play, you take the next snap. Recovery is the only option, non-negotiable. Interesting. Let's see. Gustavo says, I actually remember talking to myself from the perspective of my future, now current recovered self, saying things like, if you didn't know this pain and desperation right now because you know it right now, you'll know joy and peace and it'll be easier to keep. I like that.
I got a goosebump.
I like that. You got just one singular goosebump, Liz? All right.
Yeah, I don't know why that came out that way. I got lots of them.
I got a goosebump. Gustavo, thank you for that one goosebump. But no, that's deep. Like if you didn't know this pain and desperation right now because you know it right now, you'll know joy and peace and it'll be easier to keep. And that's one of the biggest things too, because I be wanting like, I don't know if y'all ever seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler, which, by the way, like I go back and watch a lot of the old movies that I would watch when I was younger, and I go back and I'm like, this is so like bro has this clicky thing, and instead of like pausing time so he can do all the work that he needs to do and then press unpause so he can spend all the time with his family and like get unlimited time, bro decides to fast forward all this time with his family to when he gets a promotion and fast forwards 2 years and he's just like not present. So he didn't use the remote the right way. But I often think about like the importance of not having that remote because like what I'm learning by feeling this right now, this is what I used to run from. Like I used to get high, I used to drink, I used to, get in relationships that took me outside of myself, like because I didn't want to experience this. But this experience right here, right now, is the currency. This is what builds who it is that I'm becoming, that allows for me to never lose what it is that is being cultivated. Like nobody, like you can come and snatch all of my possessions right now. You can snatch the clothes off me. I'd be naked. So like, don't do that. But you could. But I would still have my wisdom. I would still know what I know. I would still, and not know like as in know, but like I've come to understand that we only know what we practice. So I'll still be the person that's practicing the things that I've learned to practice. And can nobody take that away from me? And if it wasn't for the experiences that I've had, that wouldn't be a actuality. That wouldn't be the truth. So yes, I really love that. I really love that.
I really love that too. I think, it's easy when we have these conversations to feel like we're talking from a point of view of the after. Like there's, this is recovery being on the other side of it and addiction being on this side of it. And, one of the many wonderful things about this community is we have folks that are on every single, all levels of that. We're all, at any moment of the day, I think I'm in all different levels of recovery. And I think the thing about pulling that curtain back too, like you said, like being okay with where you are right now, like where you are right now doesn't have to be 5 years in or a year in or even 3 days in, you know what I mean? Like where you are is where you are. And like the fact that you're here, especially you're here, like listening to this podcast, whether you're listening to the recording or you're here in this webinar with us right now, like you worked really hard to get to this moment, and it might not feel or look the same as anybody else's moment that's in here right now, but like we're all in this moment and like you worked to get here. And I don't know, I'm really proud of you for being here. So whether you're pulling back the curtain and it's for you 10 minutes ago or decade ago or your 4-year-old self, like someone just said, like, I don't know, I just want to make sure it's easy to, I think, to feel like, well, I'm not there yet, then I'll look back. It's like, no, you're here now and you fought to get here. Keep freaking fighting because we're better because you're here.
I think, and shout out to the person, who was it? I think it was Ivory Keys said, I'm perpetually going back to the 4-year-old me.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah.
I talk to because of her age. I would say surround yourself with safe, protected people. Very, very good words. And also, my 4-year-old self would not have sat still long enough for me to talk to him. That's for sure. But I feel like, I don't know, the practice of being here now, and my spiritual teacher, Ram Dass, would be super proud of this conversation. I think that is underlying a lot of what it is that I've learned in recovery. Like, how can I be here? Because a lot of what it is that I do when I'm in unhealthy states or that I've done in previous versions of my life was stewing in what it is that I can't change, or getting so far ahead of myself that I can't enjoy the now, or even the process to get to where it is that I'm going. And whenever I get there, like it'll be more to do because that's my stance. You know what I'm saying? Focusing on the future. So when I get to the future, it's going to be the now, but then I'll still be focused on the future. And so like recovery has allowed for me to be here and like have those moments of lucidity where there's breath, presence, friendship, compassion, love, tasty food, water sounds, the sun, the stars, the moon. And it's been a beautiful experience.
Yeah. I feel like Eugene just said that he's grabbing tools from this meeting, adding them to the toolbox for future use. And I cannot agree more. This is, how cool to have this conversation between the two of us in this right now, here and now, and then to have all these other voices that are chiming in with their tools and their wisdom and brilliance. And I don't know if there's a way that we can save this chat because we're gonna start wrapping up here in a moment. But man, I want to. Maybe we can. I wonder if we can figure out a way to save it and then like post it in the group. Do you think?
Maybe.
I'm trying to tech and talk at the same time, so maybe I shouldn't overshoot here. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Bryce? Do we do it?
Yeah, I think we did. Drop in the chat. Who in the chat thinks that they would like something like this to happen in their town, in their city, live, in person? Throw it in the chat, like me, and throw that city in the chat. That's something we want to look into and see if there's the energy that substantiates that is not out of the picture. So I need to see your excitement, though. We're seeing Tucson. We're seeing San Francisco.
I've never been to San Francisco. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, I guess we're going to San Francisco, and who was the other thing you said earlier? Steven Tyler. I was like, is Steven Tyler here? Are we bringing Steven Tyler on?
Yeah, we're gonna come to Phoenix, Arizona, and we're bringing Steven Tyler. So get
our good friend
ready.
Steven Tyler.
Oh
my gosh.
I don't want to fall asleep because I miss you, baby.
Oh my gosh. We got a whole lot of West Coast in the house. Boise, amazing. I think I saw Georgia in there. Heck yeah. Austin. We got to keep Austin sober. Love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. Did I drop an F-bomb? I did not mean to. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I love the fact that you did. Because you don't
notice that I did. Oh no.
But this has been absolutely amazing. You know, there's a thing too for those of you who are new to the community. You know, we have this app, the Phoenix app. You can go on there and you can join all the programming. All of our programming is free to anybody with just 48 hours of sobriety. We also have community groups in there. And when you build anything new, there's this process of learning, like how to use it, how we want the community to use it, as well as how the community decides to use it, and then figuring out, like, okay, this is how we use this tool. And one of the obstacles that I've seen, especially like with virtual programming, with people zooming in from everywhere, is you pop on the app, you see this thing, and you register, and then that program goes live, and then maybe, you know, it's a couple of people in there, but the people who registered, it doesn't translate one-to-one, the registrations and the people who are actually in the program. And so to see so many of y'all like actually show up, you know, to this program and be here, like, it lets us know, like, oh, okay, this is something substantial. And it gives me hope as somebody who's helping to story tell for the org, and to get everybody to understand how to use these tools. Like, how do we use the app? How do we continue to create and cultivate community? Why is it important? Is it important to you? And should this be where you are? This is a good piece of feedback from me, and I've just had a great time, and I can't wait to do it again. Which, with that being said, the next time we'll be doing this is in September, I believe, the virtual one for Recovery Month.
Yep. I don't think we have it on this calendar yet, but yeah, stay tuned.
No, Bryce is just announcing everything right now. So
it's so exciting to be part of. For me too. All news to me. I love it. It's gonna be so much fun. Oh, thank you, Gustavo. Thank you, Melissa. Oh, thank you, everybody, for being here. I mean, for being here live. I mean, that's a big deal. Your time is so precious, and you are so precious, and it just means so much to us to just be able to be part of this, of what you are building. Because I mean, we're talking, and would be no fun if you weren't here. Right. So yeah, if you haven't already, hop onto any podcast app that you find out there and just look for the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. I think sometimes people look for the Phoenix podcast, which I'm sure exists somewhere, but it's not us. So Rise, Recover, Live. You can also find it, you know, in the app. It's also linked on our website, thephoenix.org. Actually, Emma, do you want to throw a couple links in the chat? If that's too much to ask, we can always set them out afterwards. If you are able to, up for subscribing or following on one of those podcast apps, it makes a really big difference. Really, really allows more people to find it. So please, if you don't mind, do that. If you give us a little 5-star rating, that makes a big difference as well. And if none of those things are in your wheelhouse and you just listen once in a while, it's just as wonderful. And we're so grateful for you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And with all that being said, we will catch you next time on the next episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.